for you girls?
Well, I just say, mamas, I want to encourage your heart to just talk to your daughters on a daily basis, asking them how they're doing and praying together with them, encouraging them in their walk with Christ, teaching them to truly love Jesus and to serve their family. And when we fail, which we will, each day we make mistakes, that we will be quick to humble ourselves and to ask for forgiveness of the Lord and each other. And I know as we have done that in our own family, that the Lord has encouraged our hearts together as we walk with Jesus.
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is June 23rd, Wednesday. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm sitting here and I'm ready to go because, man, you guys, there is some tea and it is serious. And I try to move on to other things. I mean, earlier I was reading about this whole Free Britney thing with Britney Spears speaking in court today. And I was like, my mind was like blown about what came out with the New York Times related to documents that they obtained from their conservatorship. And I'm just wondering if you guys are interested in me covering this or if you feel like other places are covering it too much. It's always been something that interests me, but if it's not something you guys want to see, or if it is something you want to see, let me know in the comments below. So we have been spending a lot of time, tons of time right now with the Josh Duggar case and the Duggars, mostly because this has been a lot to take on. I totally get that I normally cover so many of other topics, but every single day something new pops up about this that I have to explore, and then that derails all my stuff for other things. And that's exactly what happened today when I logged into my Instagram and I started getting messages from my subscribers, which, by the way, thank you guys so much for sending me tips and things. If I don't respond to you in DMs, please know that it's nothing personal. I do limit who I respond to as a whole. So, but if you certainly do have tips, feel free to send them to me on Instagram or on Facebook. Now, let's talk about what I walked into, because this actually came from some sleuthers down in Reddit on the Snark board, Duggar Snark. And then I was able to obtain some details from one of my sources who actually has information about the situation. And let's start from here. So Josh Duggar has been living with LaCount Reber since he was released from detention following his bond hearing. And they are in charge of basically being his third-party custodian. They are in charge of him ensuring that he maintains his bond conditions and that he doesn't violate anything. And they are also responsible to make sure that he goes to all of his court appointments and doesn't miss his trial. You know, all the good stuff. During the bond hearing, one of the things that came up a lot with the judge and the U.S. attorneys was really asking the Rebers whether or not there was an incentive that was provided to them by Jim Bob Duggar, or if they had felt coerced by Jim Bob Duggar to take Josh Duggar in. The reason why this question continually kept coming up was because the Duggars and LaCount Reber relationship with Josh was very limited. So going into the situation, they admitted that they hadn't really had a lot of one-on-one time with Josh. They also had acknowledged that they weren't really close with Josh. The Reber had said that the decision had come down from her husband, who wanted to do this under their ministry. They continually asked if they were receiving payment from Jim Bob. They asked if Jim Bob was using his undue influence in order to get them to take Josh in. There was just so many questions that they felt like the Rebers might be being pressured by Jim Bob, or that through this, that Jim Bob might find a way to influence them when they take, like, as the third party custodian. They were adamant in court that there was no incentives, no money, and they were doing this out of the benefit, out of like their own heart and compassion and drive to help others in times of strife. And LaCount referencing his work with prisoners and his prison ministry as a reference for, you know, why he might be interested in taking Josh. there was a lot of questions because LaCount and Melissa have a daughter who is 22 years old named Hannah, and they were concerned about Hannah being with Josh in the same vicinity and whether or not they would feel safe with that. And time described and discussed a little bit of apprehension about being alone with Josh while they lived with him during the time of his detention. So they were adamant over and over and over again there was no incentives. So it was a little bit surprising today when I was on my Instagram and I started getting these messages. So here's what happened. An internet sleuth on Instagram noted that David Keller, who happens to be the youngest brother of Anna Duggar, is dating Hannah Reber. Yes. So so here's what happened. David Keller, who is about to be 23 years old, posted on his Instagram, and on his Instagram, he posted a photo of Hannah. And Hannah is LaCount's daughter. Does that make sense? So Anna Duggar's brother, who is Josh Duggar's wife, and LaCount Reber's daughter are now dating. Yeah, this is not weird at all. This is what David had to say on his Instagram. He says, "Hey everyone, I'd like you to meet Hannah Reber. I've really enjoyed getting to know her. God gives good gifts." James chapter 1:17. So after I posted that, I had made a comment about how this seemed to be a little bit questionable. And my thought was like, was there some sort of incentive to the Rebers that potentially there could be a relationship that they might benefit from by taking Josh in? Like maybe Jim Bob saying, well, we might be able to hook you up with one of our kids, or, Anna has some brothers. Was that sort of dangled over their head, or was this something that happened organically? Now, knowing how Jim Bob likes to have control of situations, I suspect maybe there could have been some discussions like this. I don't really know, but the optics here don't look really good because in my opinion, if this relationship is happening and we know that David Keller is Anna's brother, Jim Bob being Josh's dad, and Anna being his daughter-in-law, for all intents and purposes, with Josh sort of incapacitated, Josh, in a way, Jim Bob is taking leadership over of Anna. And with that, he can ultimately control some of the relationship dynamics here because, if without the Duggars, they don't have this relationship, if that makes sense. So I don't know if this is a way that they could potentially influence the Custodians through, keeping them happy, making sure that they stay, willing to keep Josh in their home. I don't know, but the optics to me look a little bit suspicious. So then what I did was I reached out to my source, who does happen to know Hannah, and my source went on to check Hannah's Instagram, and Hannah had posted something very similar on hers. So on Hannah's Instagram, she said this: "Dear David, God gives good gifts. I've enjoyed knowing you. Can't wait to start this adventure with you. At David Keller. P.S. He sings too." And he was singing a song. Now my source didn't have the Wi-Fi in order to record the song that he was singing to her. And then David also posted a story of the two of them having some sort of FaceTime conversation, and that was posted. Hannah posted it on her Instagram, and then that was reshared on David's Instagram. So this is kind of weird. It's kind of like love after lockup, like love after Josh's lockup with the third-party custodian, and the daughter is now dating Anna's brother. Does anyone else find that weird? So you guys were a little bit mixed on this when I brought this up to you on whether or not this could be like a conflict of interest or be perceived to be some sort of incentive to the Rebers. Some of you felt like there was no conflict here, that they were basically just close friends. On my Instagram, someone pointed out that perhaps this was already something that was happening beforehand, and that could have been a reason why they took Josh in. This is what you said. You said maybe they took him in because their daughter was already courting Anna's brother. It makes more sense. Now with this comment, I was like, well, that's true, except during the court hearings, they were actually asked a variety of different questions, and at no time was this type of relationship be disclosed. In fact, the relationship was described as they went to church with Jim Bob Duggar and had a very limited relationship with Josh. They talked only briefly about their daughter and made no mention about any relationships that might have, a extension to the Duggars. And this would be for sure something that you would tell the court, because you'd be like, well, yeah, we love the Duggars because our daughter is dating Anna's brother, So I don't know if this was something that they had in the beginning, or if this was something that was going on and they didn't tell anyone, or if this could have been offered as sort of like, hey, we'll set you up if you want to take Josh in type of thing, or if it's just something that happened organically. So one of you thought that perhaps it was just something that happened ahead of time. Someone said this: nothing can really be proven, so reporting will do nothing. So they're basically saying that nothing can be proven that this relationship may have been established by Jim Bob as an incentive. So they believe that even if this were reported to the probation office, that it wouldn't matter. That's another interesting take. One of you actually pointed out that you felt like this actually could have been done by Jim Bob Duggar as a way to potentially influence the Rebers, and by being able to hang this over their head. This person said, it's like they thought they found a loophole. If she's dating Anna's brother, she is most likely going to marry him. That would make her Josh's sister-in-law, therefore family, but not yet technically. And they're more likely to keep their mouths shut, almost like rat on the Duggars, he won't marry you. So do you think that this could potentially influence the Rebers not to be as honest with the court, given that if they did something to potentially upset Anna or the Duggars, that they might pull the relationship out from under their wool, like out from under them? Like, don't tell on us, you have this relationship now, don't do anything, you've got this relationship. I mean, that's an interesting take. I don't know if that's what they would do, but that was, I appreciated that point of view. Another person said this: conflict of interest for sure. These people have not a millimeter of Christian intention, and Jim Bob should be in jail, as should the whole sanctuary family. But put the true criminal in jail until his trial. Why does Bob get to negotiate special privileges for Daddy's little monster? True enough. I mean, it is interesting how involved Jim Bob is with everything. This person made a really good point too. From the start, I thought the Rebers were too close to be considered a third party. Being from the same church already intertwines them too much. And then finally, this person said this: I saw that this morning, and it's too coincidental. The Rebers are not a random family from church. Their daughter is dating Anna's brother. That's why they were asked and obviously obliged. There was some questions from you guys about whether or not Josh was actually allowed to live with a custodian that was related to him. And the stipulations really had nothing to do with whether or not it was a family. It was more that he could not live with any minor children. And the reason why the Duggars would not be a good option for that is because literally all of the kids have minor children. So living with the Duggars or any of his siblings, or say like his aunt and Amy, was completely off the table. Obviously, Amy and his aunt wouldn't have taken him anyway, but you know what I mean? Like, they didn't have a lot of options, and they couldn't stay with the family simply just because of the kids. So when you look at it from that perspective, technically it couldn't be with the family. But the conflict for me here now is that, again, if Jim Bob has somehow orchestrated this or encouraged this relationship, it creates a power dynamic with the Duggars that makes it so they become like family, and then they have incentive to protect that family structure. So if you know that you not telling on someone or you not ratting someone out could potentially make sure that your daughter gets married, or if you say know that if you keep your mouth shut, everything will go swimmingly for the daughter that you've wanted to get married off, that would, be working in the Duggars' favor. They promised that they would turn Josh in for anything, and yet I still believe that Jim Bob has a lot of influence, and I believe it was concerning enough to the U.S. attorneys when they found out about this relationship. That's why they kept probing and pressing about this. Could this be enough to actually pull them off? I don't know. I mean, honestly, the court would have to find out about it, and then the court would have to decide whether or not Jim Bob can actually be influencing him. I'm assuming that if a probation officer found out about it, then they would have to then interview them. But I don't know that necessarily this is like, you can't have people dating each other. I mean, could it have been as simple as the fact that Anna Duggar was over at the Rebers' house and David happened to call one day and Hannah was around and they started talking? Or maybe Anna was talking to Hannah and she let him know about her brother. Or could it have been that Michael Keller, who is Anna's dad, knowing that he does prison ministry, also might have somehow been talking with Anna while they were over there? There's a lot of different ways this could have all played out. But something does seem just so suspect to me about the timing, about the courtship, about being a gift. That's the part that really seems odd to me, like God's gift. So this was a gift from God that you guys were set up together to meet together. So was taking Josh in like divine intervention? So basically, God will answer your prayers, Hannah, if you let Josh live here. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but gift from God is just an interesting choice of words. Now, some of you guys will say, well, gift from God is just from the Bible and it's just an expression. But here it just seems so weird. Like, this is your gift from Jim Bob. Okay, allegedly. I have to say allegedly for legal purposes. I have no idea how this all transpired. All I can say is that this doesn't look good. So tell me what your thoughts are about this. Do you think that this could have some influence by Jim Bob Duggar? Do you think this relationship between Hannah and David could potentially influence the Rebers to not be as cooperative with probation and with the U.S. government when it comes to Josh and more willing to hide things that he does? And do you think this was something that was prearranged, or do you think it happened more organically? There's so much here, and I don't have enough answers, but I'll keep on pressing and looking for you. As I learn more, I'll let you know. But for now, Hannah Reber and David Keller are courting, meaning they're on a journey to potentially getting married, which would make them Hannah Reber, Josh Duggar's future sister-in-law. Gross. All right, you guys, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye.